lived in this wonderful city of Chicago for 5 years before I returned to Stanford to go to business school. And I have a confession for all of you. I have a bit of a love affair with this city of Chicago. It enticed me with its picturesque skyline, the lakefront walks, and those restaurants that Tina mentioned that can make nearly anyone into a foodie. But as in any real love affair, it wasn't always pretty. Outside of work, I mentored 8th graders at a school on the west side called Holy Family. My first mentee there is named Nikki, and she was a bright, smiled, ambitious, wonderful girl. And in getting to know her and her family, I saw the less glamorous parts of this city. I saw the neighborhoods where kids feared for their lives walking to school, and their parents just wanted to make it a better place or get out. And in helping her with her high school applications, I thought I was doing my little part to make this city a better place, if only just for her and her family. But at times that felt small. And I sought out other ideas to see if I could have a greater impact. I came across research done by a Yale sociology professor that suggested that crime in this city is strikingly predictable. And in this time when all the narrative around Chicago crime was that it was an epidemic and it couldn't be solved, he gave me hope that there was actually an opportunity for change. And I needed that in the middle of this experience. Now, during this time in my life, I had two very different, distinct parts of my life. I had time at work where I was building skills, and time outside of work where I was exploring my passions. And a big reason why I returned to Stanford to go to business school for a 3rd degree and a lot more tuition from there was that I didn't want to have these distinct parts of my life. I thought of Stanford as this place where building skills and exploring passions were one and the same. And I had the encouragement and the resources to go after the things that were really interesting to me. As I tell you about an example of how I've taken advantage of the GSB, I encourage you to think about these couple questions. The first is, when is the last time that you've gone out and done something that you're really passionate about? And if that wasn't recently, then why not take an opportunity this weekend to take a couple steps towards doing so? So about a year ago, I participated in the LOWKeynotes program, an intensive communication program at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. It's only been around for about 3 years. And through this program, I really got a chance to not just think about what I was going to do to change the world, but to think about how I wanted to communicate that to others. And I want to break down the name of the program a little bit to give it a little bit more meaning for you. The GSB's motto is to change lives, change organizations, and change the world. So the LOW in LOWKeynotes stands for lives, organizations, and the world. And like I said, they want to make sure that these ideas that we're learning about just don't stay in the classroom, that they get communicated to our peers and to the broader community. Now, I chose the topic of mentoring in Chicago and this research that I had found about with hopes that I would inspire my classmates to go after these problems that they thought were previously unsolvable. Through a 10-week program, and that included workshops with professors and coaching sessions with professional communication coaches, peer feedback. The program culminated in a 9-minute keynote talk that I did that ended up doing it for my peers and then also was posted on YouTube. And when I went through this process, I also re-engaged in that research and found out things like, even in the most dangerous parts of the west side of the city, 70% of the violent crime happens in 6% of that community's social network. So that means that even though the impact of crime is pervasive, the individuals who are involved in that crime is actually very targeted. And that the Chicago Police Department was doing things to take this ivory tower research into the streets. This program hit a nexus for me that was really inspiring. I was doing a topic I was really interested about. I was able to really learn a lot and get challenged, but I was supported the whole way. And doing my talk in that room on the last day was exhilarating. But even more exhilarating was when I sent an email to that professor with a link to my talk. And I told him that I hope I did his research justice. He emailed me back that same day, and he said, "Thanks so much for sharing this with me. I'm really glad you're engaged with my research. But forget my research. You did yourself justice. So I'm going to be returning to this illustrious alumni ranks in 3 months when I graduate from the GSB. And I've been thinking a lot about how I'm going to apply this idea that I felt in LOWKeynotes to my time after Stanford. What I've come to so far is that I no longer will work at a place where I have to leave my passions at the door. I've accepted a job at Apple because I know that I'll be able to deal with questions and problems that are really important to me, like how can we sustainably source our products? How can we have suppliers that are not just great suppliers, but are socially responsible as well? And I hope to connect with many of you today to hear about how you fuse skills and passions into your life outside of the bubble. Taking a step back, I've shared all of this with you today to really remind you of these magical moments that Stanford helps to continue to create. And to remind you that these spaces where we build skills and explore passions are not just where learning happens, but where growing happens. Thank you so much.